was going to say we should start the episode off by formally introducing our mascot.
Pterodactyl.
Yes.
Whoop, whoop.
See, I'm wearing a white shirt, so it's hard to see her through
Honestly, yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Yeah, but you'll be seeing a lot more
Pterodactyl
of her.
is my goddaughter. Let's go
Yes.
ahead and put it publicly
Oh, okay.
that if Bex and Chancellor die, unfortunately, this cat is going to me.
It's like they died. Lizzie in the background's like,
deep down.
I know.
I'm so sad. But where's my cat?
On Amazon looking for cat stuff.
Yeah. God forbid anything happens, but it's in writing. So.
Jeez.
And Pterodactyl has extra toes.
That's why she's
Anyone
called
else wanna- now
That's why
going.
she's called pterodactyl, because she has I think 6 or 7. I
Mhm.
lost count. 6 or 7 toes per paw. She's a
Mhm.
He's
polydactyl
so
cat,
cute.
but we called her pterodactyl. She
That's
sounds
so
like a dinosaur.
cute.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's good for business, especially like in her profession. Well, her both professions.
Wait, Pterodactyl's profession?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody knows that.
I was like, where did the topic go? That,
What do you
Yeah, I
mean?
guess
We're
as
talking
a
about her
mascot.
extra fingers.
oh
You
yeah.
can make muffins.
She just
Call
needs them out. Yeah.
You need a
does look like
massage
she
on your
has little
shoulders.
gloves.
Give it an extra one too.
She does do the little
yeah,
kneading
she does. She
thing.
was doing it on my thigh.
So
I
cute.
appreciated the extra appendage.
Yeah. That's so funny you call it
Extremities.
profession.
That's one way to put it.
It is. That's how she makes her life's work, and how get the money.
Yeah.
She's so cute.
Oh,
She is really cute.
precious.
Let's get into what was grim and what was great. Who wants to go first?
I think you do.
I don't really have a wait. Let me think. Oh, okay. I'm gonna stick with a great. I don't think I have a grim.
Oh.
I do have a grim.
Let's hear
I'm
it.
not gonna get too in detail about it, but y'all already know that
Mhm.
like it's such a full circle thing, because I think like one of the first episodes or something like that, I was like, yeah, we got a house, like we were in our house, and then now
Uh-huh.
I'm just like, I want to leave this house.
It's
So
made a full circle.
that's kind of not in the best way, but like honestly, I'm just kind of over it, and I would love to kind of now move out.
Mhm.
Easier said than done, but it's just kind of like a grim right now. It's
Yeah.
not ideal situation, and I'm not going to go too much into it because it is what it is. But overall, I would say my great is that I went speed dating, and I
How'd
enjoyed
it go?
it. Well, I enjoyed it because like like swiping on the dating apps.
Terrible.
And if you're not swiping on the dating apps, then honestly, like a lot of people are like, oh, let's just go to the grocery market. Oh my gosh. Like if that doesn't happen, folks. Like you're out
Yeah,
doing
people
your
are
daily
always like,
thing.
you'll find him when you're ready.
Yeah, and I'm not saying
Mhm.
it's not going to happen, but like on the day-to-day reality, like you're just not interacting with people like that. Like I don't
Yeah.
know where we stopped doing it, but it just doesn't happen as often as it used to. Like people don't bump into you when you're in the frozen pizza aisle or anything
Right.
like that. Like you just do your own thing in your daily life. So it's kind of fun to finally like, sit down and actually talk to people and like see if there's any type of connection there.
Yeah.
So I think that was like the funnest thing, is just kind of like tapping back into like, I don't know, seeing suitors in front of you and being like,
And
yes or no.
they all want to be dating.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Like
you don't
there's a
have to
commonality.
question it. So do you have any dates?
Well, no, I literally just went last night. So
Well, I didn't know if like you set up dates after you go speed
well,
Yeah, or
dating.
exchange contact
essentially,
info.
yeah, like that's kind of how it goes. I messed up bad.
Uh-oh.
So like they give you a sheet of paper,
Okay.
Uh-huh.
and what it is, it's a number. Everyone's assigned a number, and then when they sit down, you get their name and you put the name to the number, and then you put a descriptor of how to like differentiate the people.
Sure.
Okay.
And then next to that, it says a let's talk, and then it has a no or something like that.
Mm.
And then you pretty much fill that out, and then you circle which one it is.
Oh, interesting.
So when you circle the let's talk, you're giving them permission to share your contact information.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how it's going to go. I don't know if they're going to send me a text message and like show me all the people that said yes to me, or either just only give me the people that I said yes and they said yes.
Right. That you
I
connect with.
can't really remember, but eventually like contacts will be getting shared, and then that's
Okay.
how you like go forward
That
and
makes
talking with that
sense.
person.
Yeah.
I messed up in the sense of like when I finished the descriptor words and everything, it all mushed together.
Oh,
And I couldn't really
no.
remember who was who besides
Right.
two to three key people out of
Uh-huh.
like I don't know, it was like 17, 18
Yeah, did they
people.
let you describe as you go, or do you have to do it all at
Yeah,
the
like
end?
you describe as you go, but
Okay.
I will say, like, when you're doing it, it is very like hard to like do it while that person starts
Go that
talking, and so you don't
fast.
want to be
Yeah.
weird and disrespectful, and
Uh-huh.
on top of that, you don't want to circle what you
Hell
want to do
no,
while you're
as
doing
they're
it. That's so like
watching
I
you,
feel like
yeah.
it's rude and it's weird. So
Yeah.
I waited to do some of this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and that bit me because looking back on it, like you
couldn't
would think that you
remember.
would remember, but you don't. It just starts to all mush
That many
together.
people,
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's like
Right.
I think you get 5 minutes per people. So it's
Oh,
just like
gosh.
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
That's not very
And
long to get to know
No, it's
someone.
not
Mhm.
very long. So you really get to the point of like, what are you looking for? What do you do for a living? Like all that type of stuff.
Straight
or
to the
whatever.
You got to get
business.
to meat and
Yeah.
potatoes right away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because it's the same questions to
Mhm.
the same, like almost the same answers,
Yeah.
there's hard for people to be too unique to stand out.
Well,
Anyways, guys, that was my grade. And ultimately, we will see if there was a match or whatever.
Yeah, you'll have
Well,
to
keep
keep us
us
all
updated.
posted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
grim?
Well, my grim was,
The
the
house.
house
Oh,
that we
house,
live in.
right.
And just,
Okay, my
Let's
bad.
just say it's high maintenance. Yeah.
yeah, it's very high maintenance house.
Grim, I have a grim for sure because I had the flu this
Yep,
week.
right.
That really sucked. Yeah, just like my
Mhm.
body aches and everything. I was
Mhm.
sitting there like,
that's
when is
all.
this gonna be over? So
Mhm.
Did
that
you go-
wasn't fun.
Did you go to like urgent care at all or anything, or were you just sitting there suffering in silence?
Pretty much.
Oh
Yeah.
God. Well,
I
I'm
feel
glad
like when
you're
you
here
know
with
what it
us.
is too, though, that's kind of where you're like, okay, like I know what this is, but at
Right.
the same time, I gotta write it out.
Yeah, I made it out
Yeah.
alive. I took 2 days off work,
That's
but
good.
yeah,
That's good.
Yeah.
get a little
'Cause
rest.
like you were saying, people like catch that easy,
Oh yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like if you would have came in, everybody would have went down.
I probably would have had to close my door, but yeah,
Oh,
I was
right,
just
right.
like, y'all keep your distance.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know if I had a great. I'll just keep it grim.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of have a twofer. So
Twofer.
Twofer.
Is that a word? I think so.
We'll make it a word.
I like
Okay,
it.
We'll make it a word for today.
We should
Um,
have like a Beck's dictionary. We should start that at some point
Yeah,
in the
after-
podcast
after
and just like have it
naivete.
blink
It
up
was
with a
naivete.
square.
Naivete.
Naivete.
I like it
Twofer.
though. A twofer. Anyway, I for work was at a layover, and I'm not going to say where for security reasons, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about. But it was the most haunted hotel that I stayed at,
Oh my
according to the
goodness.
internet. In the history of the United States, not in the history, but in all of America right now, I stayed at the most haunted house.
How'd it go?
Well, so the great part was that I was staying there because I'm super into ghost activity, and I was very
Mhm.
intrigued, and I was hoping something would happen.
Right.
But the grim is that nothing happened. But I feel like
Aw.
that's backwards for people. They'd be like, the most grim thing
Right.
was that
is
I stayed
saw
at a
the scary
haunted
ghost.
hotel.
Yeah.
What
Why
was
would you
great
want
is that
something
nothing
to
happened.
Right.
Because it's like, if I'm going to stay at a haunted hotel,
What you want to have?
show me
happen?
how it's haunted. Like, I just want to see,
You want a ghost to like
Yeah.
assault you or something?
not assault me completely, but just
You want a
Not
friendly ghost.
completely.
You want a
Just
friendly
kind
ghost.
of.
I,
Yeah.
a little bit, but it was supposed to be
I
a
think
friendly
she wanted
ghost.
touchy feely with the ghost community.
I love how people are like, I want to have a ghost or whatever experience, but I want it on my terms.
Right. I want it the way I
I
want
don't
it.
think it works that way.
I don't want to be groped by a ghost, you know. But
Well,
That ghost said, I'm gonna do
that.
whatever I want to do. You in my house.
I looked up the ghost. I looked up the ghost, like what they know about it, the hotel
Mhm,
staff and
mhm.
everything. And he is supposed to be very friendly, and he's just a prankster. He grew up he was a professor. He retired, decided to live at
there's
the
only
hotel
one ghost.
full time. No, there's two other ghosts that they're still learning about. One of them is
Okay.
a girl in a pink dress that died on a balcony. They don't know much
Sure.
about her. The other one is some random man.
Jerry's face.
But the professor is supposed to be very friendly, but he
Yeah.
pranks people by locking them out of their
That's a fun
room-
rooms.
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one time, and I looked up the history of all of these sightings and experiences that these people have had with the ghost. And one time, one of the guests got locked out of the room, and the hotel staff couldn't even open it because the door was sealed in, and they actually had to take it out.
like the bolt.
Just the
Was
whole
on or
door
what?
was
Just like sealed,
Okay.
trapped shut.
like
Wow.
Yeah.
suctioned
So
air. or
they've
whatever.
done renovations
Crazy.
on the room, and now it's split up into 4 different rooms.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But people still experience getting locked out and stuff.
Mm.
That's
So
wild.
I was kind of hoping to see something. I even walked by the room because I was only 10 doors down from the haunted room. Nothing happened. I was really sad. But
Well, I'm
that's
sorry
okay.
goodness.
you didn't get haunted or
I just wanted to
Touched
see
by a
something.
ghost.
I didn't want to be touched by a ghost. I just wanted to see it.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm that girl in the horror movie that's just
You-
like, wait,
That's
where
what I.
is it?
th-
I'll
that's
go
what
look.
I am.
Wait,
That's what I'm
flashlight?
understanding. I'm so glad
Let's go
you
into the
shared this
dark
with
basement.
us today.
It's fine.
Because moving forward, my portfolio on you on travels, it's getting really interesting, Bex. You are the girl that is seeking out danger.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it as dangerous, I guess.
After Belize, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see it dangerous yet. Mm-hmm. That's okay.
That's why we keep Cherish with us.
It's exactly why.
safe.
If not,
Who's to say?
you're gonna float away. Something's gonna happen.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
girl, I don't even know.
I would be really curious though if the listeners know what hotel I'm talking about. Like any other
Maybe.
ghost fans out there, like let me know. That would be cool to talk about. But
Yeah. Maybe you guys can all have a tea party together.
let me know if you've stayed at that hotel and have had any
Yeah.
sightings.
What was the
Like,
name of the hotel? Or you're not gonna give that out.
Well, I don't want to fully give it out just because I do
Uh-huh.
it for work, so security reasons. But I'll
Right.
let them kind
Got it.
of figure
Fill in
that
the
out.
gaps.
It's a little mystery for you to solve,
There you
and then
go.
we
Got
can
it.
talk about it. But I
Got
didn't
it.
say it.
If you're ever
Yeah.
looking to, get trapped inside the hotel or not,
Or trapped outside of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my
Okay.
grim and
Good
great.
time.
So,
All right.
you want to
All
dive
right.
in?
Yeah, let's
Get
dive
into
into
it.
this one.
Sure.
This
Alright.
one is, what did Liz say? Not convoluted. What did you say?
Convoluted.
It was? Complex.
It is
Complex,
complex.
complicated,
Yes.
twisted.
It gives me a lot of emotions.
It's a shock one, that's for sure. I don't know if this is a case to like pick sides on, but this is called Tell Them You Love Me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So for those who haven't watched us, welcome to Grim Reviews.
Oh, hi. Yeah.
I'm Vex,
I'm Cherish.
I'm Lizzie.
and we are a true crime podcast where we review true crime documentaries that are viral and streaming on multiple platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We get into it.
Yeah, we're high professionals and we pretty much know everything. So
Okay.
We're
Well,
basically
I'm just
journalists.
kidding.
No.
No, we're just two. What did I say earlier? 3 girls and 3 mics.
yes,
Three girls, three
I
mics.
love that. Needs
Three
to be a
girls and-
T-shirt or something.
Honestly, yes. No one take that. But
Called
no,
it.
we keep things lighthearted and we give our opinions about the true crime documentaries, movies, shows that we watch. And honestly, we just kind of like to laugh, giggle, and we like to really talk about like what's going on in these or whatever. So if you're looking for like fact, probably not going to be the girls for you. But if you're looking to just join the discussion and figure out like what the heck is going on in these films, then keep watching, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Come follow the discussion. Sometimes we get a little nitty gritty. Sometimes the content is
Triggering.
can
Yes.
be.
Mhm.
Yeah. Darker content. So just be forewarned before you watch.
Absolutely.
But if it's your cup of tea, today we're going over
Come
Tell
have a
Them
sip.
Tell them you love me, which
Tell
is
Them
Tell them
Love
you
Me.
love me.
Yeah.
on Netflix, and it's not your regular true crime story. Like there's
No,
no murder
it's
or anything
not.
involved, but it's
That's
pretty
true.
wild.
I
Yeah.
went to the beauty store like
You
3 or
what?
4 months ago. The
Okay.
beauty supply store. You guys
Okay.
probably are not familiar because it's like a black culture thing, but it's like a Sally's.
Okay.
But like I go into the beauty supply store and I'm like getting whatever I was at the time.
Mhm.
And I don't know how we got on the topic. I think I probably brought up that I was watching a documentary or whatever. And she was like, "Have you watched this documentary?" And she was talking about this one.
Ah,
And she was
Oh,
explaining
really?
it a little bit, and
Interesting.
I was like, "Oh wow, that's like pretty messed up." Like
Mhm.
I don't really know, but she only gave me like a little small dose of it because I think I was like, "Oh, don't spoil
She
it
didn't
or
want to
whatever."
spoil it for you. Yeah.
And even then, when getting into watching it recently, I still had no idea really what I was like getting into.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's just the complexity of this is like oof. The
There's a lot of
perspectives
layers to
is
it.
Very
Right.
much like which one?
And on that note, we are going to spoil it for you. So spoiler warning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We just assume that you've watched it. since
Yeah,
you're here.
honestly, like,
Yeah.
We're all here to gab about it.
and if you
so.
haven't watched it, like, we'll pretty much just tell you what it is. You don't need to watch it. Should I do the summary really quick? Because I feel like a summary would be kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might just already spoil it, but so it is Anna Stubblefield, an
Mhm.
esteemed professor, becomes embroiled in a controversial affair with Derek Johnson, a nonverbal man with cerebral palsy that eventually leads to a criminal trial challenging perceptions of disability and the nature of consent.
Yes. Yep.
We're just like,
So
"Yup."
That's
yeah,
it.
which like it's honestly now that you say like, oh, this is the complex one.
I
Like
think it
reading that,
is.
it does really sound complex,
Yeah.
honestly, and it is complex. I'm not taking that away from it. I would like to get into what cerebral palsy is for a second before we go in more depth, because I think that that's something that like a lot of people just may not know too much about. I
Sure.
actually remember when I went to college for my undergrad, there was an amazing gentleman. He is great with art. I think he still does art to this day. I believe he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy from like a very young age or whatever as well. And dare even say like super high functioning, like
Yeah, they're different
wouldn't
tiers,
yeah,
you know?
like wouldn't. So it was really enlightening to just like watch this documentary and see
It's a
like the level of
spectrum.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my sister, she's a nurse, and she, you know, could give me a little bit more of like
You have
the
2 sisters that are nurses.
I do. One of my sisters I live with, so we were watching it together, and she was able to kind of give more insight about
Yeah.
cerebral palsy and kind of like a little bit of background history of
Right.
like the causes.
That's helpful.
And so the reasons that could onset cerebral palsy, or you could have diagnosis of, it's premature birth, infections from the mom during pregnancy, whatever that could maybe look like.
Right.
Difficult with delivery, sometimes the wrapping around the baby's neck or
Okay.
whatever and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which would cause the lack of oxygen to the brain.
Okay.
Brain bleeds, genetic disorders, a head injury could occur. Shaken baby syndrome.
So could it happen after birth, or is it really? Okay. I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Shaken baby syndrome could
Okay.
could maybe
Yeah.
cause that to happen.
Okay.
And exposure to toxins during pregnancy as well.
Wow.
Okay.
So from what I was understanding, and we also like Googled it just to also fact check. I also trust my sister, but we also just like fact check some of these to make sure.
Right.
And these are not like 100% this is what's going to cause it, but it could.
It could.
It
Yeah.
could, and this would be in and outside of the womb. So I just think that that's just really interesting to kind of like see like how much like pregnancy and like how, you know, babies are very sensitive. And,
Yeah.
you know,
You
you
have
gotta
to be
protect him.
careful
And
during pregnancy.
am I alluding saying that the mom is at fault? No, I am not saying that the mom, like whatever, you know what I mean? I'm just saying that like
Things happen.
things
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Who knows? DNA, whatever. Things
Now,
out
if
of
you
your
shake
control.
your baby and it's shaken baby syndrome,
Right.
that's a different conversation. But
For sure.
for the most part, no one, plans for this.
No,
Yeah.
and the mom seems definitely very invested in her son and would do anything for her
She
both
seemed
of
very
her
sweet.
sons
Yeah.
from what it seemed like and stuff like that. But I just thought it was a little cool to kind of see like a little bit of what cerebral palsy, like how that would onset and how that affects that person.
Absolutely.
And as we watched the documentary, we saw how like it affected, in this particular case, speech, mobility.
Yeah, he can't walk. Well, in the beginning, he couldn't walk on his own. And then,
Right.
they find ways to have him progress, like
Right.
exercises that help
Right.
him. And so he's finally able to like get around,
Right.
but not well. You know,
Right.
he's not like going to run a marathon anytime soon, but he's able
Right.
to at least do some stuff on his
Right.
own.
I
Yeah.
think the only thing that like I didn't research and I didn't like look into was pretty much kind of how that affects your appearance
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. And I think that anybody who watches and would see this certain person, Derek Johnson, you could tell that like there are some physical features that like may have been the result of his diagnoses. However, I don't exactly know how that is how that diagnosis, that affects it. I don't know if it's just like certain nerves in the face or like what it is that really impacts like physical features.
Well, I'm not a doctor. I have no idea.
Yeah, like, but it just like made me wonder too, because like I
Mhm.
said, I knew someone else who also had this diagnosis.
Sure.
And he
There's a
looked
wide range
he
of.
looks pretty normal in
Yeah.
that sense, I guess. Whatever would call normal. So I don't know. It's just like there is a huge spectrum of it, I think.
Yeah.
My friend's mom has some experience with it, and it just seems like the distortions are due to just almost a paralysis or
Right,
just
right, right.
stunting of certain
Nerves,
Whatever it
muscles,
is,
like,
yeah.
physical mobility and
Right.
yeah. So I don't know much more about it than that.
Yeah, and we don't have to, but I think that like it's just it seems very complex, and going into like learning more about like their dynamic as a family and his learning and development process, you can tell that like it's challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
Mhm.
challenging, and
Well, they
especially
have
back
to-
then it was hard for them to figure out like what would work for him, what programs were the right ones for him
Right.
to get involved in and stuff like
And
that.
the mom pretty much from day one knew that there was something wrong with him. You know, there
Mhm.
like he wasn't a typical baby. He
He
wasn't
wasn't
developing.
acting
Right.
like a normal.
And she also
child,
had
infant.
her first child, John, you know, her first son,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of compare that to.
Yes.
So she knew pretty soon
Mhm.
that he had some challenges that were different,
Mm-hmm.
you know, than her first child. And so she had to take care of him and did take care of him pretty much his whole life.
and has
Right.
continued to do
Has
so.
continued to do
Mhm.
so. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
I mean, props to her. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely.
You got a pterodactyl on you.
And
I
it
know.
makes sense too because, you know, like some of the things that he dealt with, like, you know, he started to have seizures when he was really young. They
Mhm.
did
Yes.
eventually ended up subsiding, but they still were pretty severe. And then also like him not only just being nonverbal, but also too like having self-abusive tendencies. Um, not all the time, but typically when stuff like that goes down, there does need to be a caretaker
Right.
involved, someone to step in so that person doesn't hurt themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I think that the mom, you know,
She
just,
was his full-time
yeah,
caretaker.
like
Yeah.
that was just
She
what
took
it
on that
was from
role.
a very young age. Like
Mhm.
I think them realizing that like him living a life independent
Mhm.
was very slim
Right.
for him to
Yeah.
do that. And
Sorry, I was laughing because pterodactyl was
She about
scratching
stopped
on your
recording.
computer.
I was
Yeah.
like, "Don't you dare stop that!"
so like I can understand why like you know the mom took such a heavy role into his life and taking care of him, and seeing them like
Mhm.
actual, like they're not actors, it's the real people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I
This
thought
is a
that was
real
refreshing.
story. Uh-huh.
Like granted I love to watch true crime documentaries and all that, but I really like the ones where you see the real people.
Right. It's not
And
dramatized.
yeah,
you
the
have actors coming
dramatizations or
in
whatever,
and-
like
Mhm.
it's
Not reenacted.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And not to say that I don't like those ones too, but the ones with the real people and everything, you see their facial expressions, you see the real result of like what went down and how they feel about the consequences. But
Yeah.
you also can kind of see like what it looked like of them taking care of him.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you could clearly see that like
The lifestyle.
the lifestyle
dynamic.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. It's not made up, you know. It's
Right.
not them
Right.
sitting there and just saying like no, he can't do it. It's just like you actually saw that like no, he needs help,
Mhm.
you know.
I have to say, I thought the brother John was pretty cute.
Okay, I did think that a little bit
Is that
too.
just me? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was
he's
like,
a good-looking guy.
He
okay.
was. We
Yeah.
can agree on that. We can
Yeah.
all three agree finally on it.
Finally.
Finally.
Well, I wasn't agreeing really too much on well, actually no, he was.
Lyle.
Yeah,
Who?
he was
Yeah.
cute.
He was
It's
cute.
just his hair is weird.
I don't think he was my type of cute.
right.
Yeah. I don't like the pretty boy necessarily, but this guy, he's got some muscle, he's got some
He's
brains,
well-spoken.
you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
well he had his PhD, didn't he?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was
He
I
was
think that
very
was
smart,
what
and I was
was
just like, well, that's kind of attractive.
that
you
was
know?
attractive. I
Yeah.
think that was like the most attractive. Not only was he like dreads, like I'm not a dreads girl, but like his dreads were well taken care of. It
Mhm.
seemed like
Mhm.
you said, it looked like
Yeah.
he took care of his body.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, like he's smart. That's how he
Mhm.
met.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Anna.
Anna.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
he was also very, I think the part that's attractive is that he was like very empathetic
I
and
was
very
gonna
sweet
say
with his
that,
brother, and
for
you're just
sure.
like,
So
oh, he really
encouraging.
cares.
and his
he-
mom.
Yeah.
And his mother, yes.
Yes.
He respected
He
his
was
mother.
on their side
he
the whole
helped
time.
her take care of Derek,
Mhm.
and he was also just so supportive of his brother and always felt like his brother had the potential to be more and do more, and he was always trying
Mhm.
to see like how far Derek could go
Mhm.
throughout this
Right.
whole process.
Yeah. He
was-
never doubted his brother and like maybe having more.
Well, he was his
intellect.
cheerleader. He
Yes.
wanted him to do more, but he
For
just
sure.
wasn't sure if he could. So,
Right.
Yeah. And he
The-
was cautious about like pushing that on him.
Mhm.
yeah.
You know,
Right.
like, oh, I know you can do it. I know you can do it. Do this, do this.
Right.
He
Mhm.
wasn't like that at all. He was
No,
just
he was
kinda
like, if you can, then,
Right.
then we'll take that next step together.
But I loved how
Absolutely.
he talked about Derek Derek's personality.
Mhm.
He's more than his disability.
For
Like
sure.
he's laughing, watching TV shows with me, and sometimes I'd be reading the paper, and
Yeah.
it seems like he was doing it with me, and
Right.
I don't know. I just love that connection that he
too.
had with his brother. I think
And it's
it
so
is
true,
really
and
sweet.
maybe not
It
everyone
was.
sees past that.
No,
you know?
So
no, but he
true.
knows
Yeah.
Derek better than anyone. And I
Right.
just loved
Exactly.
how he was able to articulate that in the documentary.
I think that was something that like was to be like you put a pin on, because it's like they may not be experts in figuring out how they can, I don't know, like have his intellect be shown even more, or like figuring out what program is going to like, have him succeed these like intellectual accomplishments and stuff. They may not be
Right.
the experts on that,
Right.
but they were the experts on knowing who his brother is. They spent their whole life with him.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of people do forget that, like, and I say this because I had only a little small taste of like working with people that were on the autistic spectrum. And I think like the statement of my brother is more than his disability is so profound, because I
Right.
even had that eye opening when I worked with individuals
Mhm.
in a way where it's just like there's personality still there.
Oh yeah.
There's
you
so
don't want
much
to be
more to a
defined by
person.
just one portion of who you are, you know.
So true. And so like I just really think that like yes, like someone coming in and helping and trying to like, broaden the boundaries of like what someone can do is great, but then also too like you have to give the brother and the mom some credit.
Right.
They know the son, the mom knows her son, and the brother knows his brother. Like
Right.
John, which is his name, John Johnson, he
Yeah.
knows Derek. He knows like what
That
he
almost
likes
sounds
and
like
what
a
he
made-up
doesn't
name,
like and stuff.
John Johnson.
John Johnson. Are you John Johnson? I'm just kidding.
Attorney at law,
But
John Johnson.
yeah, so
Kinda
like
catchy.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that has to be put out there, because that was the only thing that like made me just a little bit like kind of annoyed, was how eventually Anna kind of is like, I kind of have to be the spokesperson for Derek.
Right.
But then it's just like, okay, you're talking to people. You're not just talking to anybody. You're talking to people that have like worked with him and loved on him and like advocated for him all of his life.
Right.
Like we're talking that like Derek was like, I can't remember his age, but he was in his 30s at that time.
Yes, I believe
So it's like years, decades have passed at this point. Like you're kind of, I don't know. I kind of felt it was just a little bit like, okay, girl.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Put yourself in that position when they already have a relationship with him. Why do they now need to go through you to have that relationship with him?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, she comes into the picture and is like, let me test and see,
right.
you
so,
know, what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, and that's kind of like going back to, because I kind of jumped a little bit, maybe too far, but the fact that he met Anna at her PhD, one of the programs that she was a part of and teaching, and he was one of the students in that program, and he got introduced to a film of someone that had a disability that she was nonverbal as well, and he saw how so much potential in it, how success that it looked like it had come out of it, and he asked Anna about it, and Anna pretty much was like, well, yeah, this can be great and everything like that. And then he came across a program that he thought that Derek would be able to maybe be a part of.
Right.
But Anna's like, well, let me do some just very basic
Let
work
me help
with
out.
him,
Yeah.
Right.
and see if he could even qualify for that before you put a whole bunch of money, because the program I think was pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And she didn't want them to jump into that.
If he couldn't do it.
And to further clarify the program, it was called Facilitated Communications. And her mother had a lot of experience in it. I think she was certified in the program. And so Anna kind of grew up around...
Oh, Anna's mother, yeah.
But through her mother, she had a lot of experience with Facilitated Communications, which give nonverbal disabled students in the program alternative methods of communication.
Yeah.
So it seemed really helpful because they had a physical guide.
I was going to say, typically they had a physical guide, and then, you know, they were supposedly typing on their own.
On the keypads. I don't remember what they were exactly called. So they would just help them guide their hand to whatever button that they were looking to press in order to make a sentence and have a conversation.
Mhm.
Right.
Which, to be honest with you, I saw so many variations of how people were doing it.
Uh-huh.
And I understood, like, with being a facilitator, communicator, or whatever.
Facilitated communicator.
But there we go. I understood the whole, like, holding by the sleeve and, like, moving it, like, helping control where they're going.
Right.
Or, like, I saw the one where they, like, propped
Hold
up
the
the
elbow.
elbow or
Uh-huh.
whatever. And I was like, okay, I can see that. I get that.
Yeah.
But the ones where they're like holding the hand and
Or
guiding, that was where it became very obscure for me.
Yeah.
Or even where I feel like I saw one film where she had him by the elbow, I feel like. So there's, when you're underneath, you have more control of what they're
It's true,
doing.
but they still have to point the finger and still do it, whatchamacallit. So, like, I'm still like, about it.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I saw so many variations in the documentary. I'm like, well,
I get it. Yeah.
You know, like, shoot, like, there's
I could
so
see
many
why
ways to
it
see
was
how
a thing in the beginning. Yeah.
And first impression of them explaining what facilitated communication was and showing examples of that, my first impression was that I really thought it was a great thing. Right off the bat, without having further context, watching the film, it was like, oh, this is really cool. I hadn't really
this
seen
is
out
much
there.
about that.
I've never heard of it before.
Uh-huh.
And so as we continue to watch the documentary, I'm just sitting there like, what's about to go wrong then? What's about to happen? Why is this a crime documentary? It's like a really
why
good
did
thing.
she go to
And
prison?
so I was like, no.
Yeah.
So
I knew that she was going to get involved, but I just didn't know exactly to what degree was the
I didn't know how it was going to
influence.
unfold, but they'd start the documentary with her saying, yeah, I've been to prison. So I was like, okay, something goes down.
I feel like the way she like boldly sits there and is like, I'm going to be on part of this documentary and I'm going to tell my story.
And she says she's innocent.
And she does. And
The
in
whole
one
time.
way, I'm like, okay, like own it then. Like sit there and own it, because not a lot of people do. But then at the other hand, part of me is just like, I don't know if this looks as great as you think it looks.
She says she did nothing wrong. And that's where I have problems.
Yes, that's where she's not fully taking ownership, because I think she is in complete denial about what she has done in the situation. Even if she thinks that it was consensual, there are things that she did. Lines were crossed.
Absolutely.
She needs to take ownership for the things that she does realize she is at fault for.
I think my theory / thoughts on Anna do stem back to her backstory when they were going into a little bit of like her interests in people who had some sort of disability and impairments. I was like, okay, maybe it's someone who has an empathetic heart just from a young age and really is in tune to that.
Right.
But on the other hand, I did find it a little bit weird. Like the fact that you like to pretend to be on crutches, and I don't know, it just kind of was just like a little bit,
kind of like it was a fantasy.
Like her parents, when she was younger, I guess got her some crutches or whatever, and she liked to pretend that she had a disability
because her mom basically did what she did, and she was around people that were disabled, and in
the community, so she was like, oh, this is the thing to do.
She wanted to like
embody
she
that.
was like, she's like, I want to experience it, but I just kind of she talked about it a little bit, and I was just kind of like,
remember that.
I don't know. Part of me saw it as like, okay, you're younger, you're a kid or whatever, and like you have imagination, and I get it. Like
I think that by itself is not alarming. It's just everything all together.
It just makes you look back and be like,
interesting. Yeah.
Like you're a little bit too much in it.
And maybe I'm jumping forward a little bit, but I think she 100% believes what she's saying.
Oh yeah,
I think she thinks she did absolutely nothing wrong, and that Derek has the capacity to like write novels and go to school,
be in a relationship.
I 100% think she believes that.
I think so too.
Do I think it's
delusional?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I do.
I
personally do.
We'll get into it.
That like to piggyback off of Lizzie, I truly think that her her intention wasn't, ha ha ha, I'm going to do this to this man. You know
no.
what I mean? Not at all. I don't think it was like that at all.
I don't think so.
But do I think that she put her own feelings and desires above him?
Yeah.
And the family?
Yes.
Absolutely. And in my case, like out of a lot of situations that you find yourself in this world, that was not the time for you to put your own feelings and desires in front of someone else. No. That was if anything, that's for you to take a backseat and be like, what is best for this person?
Right. And that's what she started out, trying to be helpful.
Right.
And
she was evaluating where he was at.
It turned into, what do I want? What is best for my desires?
And then it turned into what is best for us.
Yeah.
And then it
was still run by her selfishness of what she wanted. I think
so. I think going into the timeline of events after she starts to introduce him to like, okay, like, your basic words, he was touching words and, like understanding what things meant and stuff like that from her own words. I really wish that the brother and the mom was able to confirm that at the time when she was actually doing that. Like
during the initial evaluation.
Exactly. Were they sitting there with him and seeing it for themselves? I don't think so because it's just kind of like they would have been able to spot that clearly right then, whether if she was wrong or not.
But I think when she had him pick it out, like the first time maybe he pointed on his own and it was the keypad. It took a while, but then the next time she helped him.
Yeah. Well, how they first started out for the initial evaluation was cut out magazine photos.
Yeah.
So they didn't even start with a keypad because that
takes
they didn't.
time. No. They started out with like letters and like.
But she was able to determine, and I don't remember exactly how, but she was able to determine with the cutout magazine photos, like, okay, he has the mental capacity to understand what he's pointing to. With the cutout magazine photos, so now we're just going to take this on to the next level, and then it went to
we got the keyboard,
Well, so another thing too is
typewriter.
She kind of like glossed over, like, because she wanted to say, oh, because I went through these basic little evaluations and tests, we were able to determine his intellectual level. So it wasn't the fact that he didn't have an intellect; it was more so that he couldn't express his intellect.
Yes,
that's what she was concluding. But my thing is she did say that she did make some corrections when he did make some mistakes. And my when she did that, my thing was like, well, you're pointing to what he wants to point, what he should be pointing to.
You're guiding his hand, and that's the whole point.
Everybody knows like memorization in a sense of like, are you just memorizing it or are you learning it?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm gonna be real. I was in band and I didn't know how to read music. And I just memorized the sound.
What?
Yeah.
So you played by ear?
Yeah. I played by ear and I was just matching where I would put my finger
that's more
to
impressive.
the sound than as opposed to but okay, you
my
think
mom
so?
can do that with
but
the
then
piano.
It's also dumb because when you were meant to sight read on site or whatever and do it and it's a completely new music. I was like,
you have to listen to it first.
Exactly. And we're not listening to it first. So I'm on with my flute and I'm like,
but girl, that is more impressive.
It really is.
You have a talent.
That's so cool.
So?
Oh, absolutely.
Because like the one girl was like, play it. She would be this one girl who was like the lead flutist. And she would be like, okay, can you do a B for me? Can you do an A for me? And I was like, I don't know. And then she's like, do this. And I'm like, okay. And I just...
Because if you did this over there, I'd be like, I don't even remember what that sounds like. Like that doesn't process the same way for me.
So that's the problem though, because it's like, yes, one would say it's cool, but the other part of it is I'm not actually learning.
Well, I mean, you could learn too, but
just repeating what you've heard.
I'm just repeating it. I'm like a parrot or whatever.
I think for me, like everyone can learn sheet music, because it's basic steps and it's possible.
Yeah, I was just
to
lazy.
learn, but not everyone has that gift to hear it and then be able to play it. So that's very impressive.
That is true. I mean, I just had to hear someone do it first, and then after a couple of times, I'm like, okay, it's this one.
I mean, you could have learned. You could have had someone teach you, but if you can just hear it and then do it, why the hell not?
Aren't there requirements? Well, I'm homeschooled, so I wouldn't know, but but aren't there requirements to get into band? Like, wouldn't...
No, because I started band when I was like in 6th grade.
Okay,
so like there was no like auditioning or anything. You just like join whoever wanted to join.
Wow.
Have you ever heard of people say like homeschool hug? where you hug yourself? This is
No.
such a side note.
Wow.
What? Because you got no friends?
Yeah.
Yeah,
People
you
used
don't
to
know
say like
anything,
you're
it's
only
like-
you only hug homeschool.
I
hugs.
like that though.
I know. Yeah.
It's cute, but it's
Yeah.
sad.
It is sad.
Aw.
Yeah. I haven't heard of that
I'm
one.
like,
Thanks.
people love me. It's
Aw,
okay.
I'll give you a hug any day.
Thanks.
Okay.
I didn't go to band.
I knew
No.
like band was fun and everything, but I do feel like I dropped off because I did get discouraged because it got to a point where like I truly did need to read music
Yeah.
at the level that like high school was demanding.
Yeah.
I
And
could
instead
see
of me
for-
buckling down and learning it, I was just like, I don't really want to do band anymore. I'm just going to focus most of my time on sports. And that's
Yeah.
what I did.
I could see for a setting like that, you would need to.
Yeah,
learn
because like
sheet
when you would go
music.
to band competitions or whatever and stuff like that, like there,
Mhm.
I think there was, I could be so wrong. There was a section where the sight read,
Yeah, okay.
and it was just like
Oh.
you don't want to be the
You're
person
like,
to
"I'm
like,
fucked."
yeah,
Yeah.
to make everyone else sound bad. Because like I remember the band teacher we had, she was just be like, someone's off, and she would point.
And you're like, no, it wasn't me.
Right.
It
So
wasn't me.
going back to like Derek Johnson thing and stuff like that, I know for a fact that memorization. I remember when I worked as an ABA therapist that like you could tell when kids were just doing what they knew you wanted you to do,
Right.
but they didn't know.
they didn't know
what they
it.
were actually
the
doing.
correlation in what they
Right.
were doing
Yeah.
and what the result I was actually looking for. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just kind of like the fact that she was just like, oh, so once I corrected him and stuff like that, I knew that like
Right.
he had like this brain, this master brain.
Right.
After,
Yeah.
And she noticed like he got confused in the beginning with lowercase words versus
Mhm.
Uppercase
and
letters,
so
yeah.
she had to make sure the keyboard was uppercase
Mhm.
so he
Mhm.
could.
One thing I do find interesting, and we talked about this a little bit before, but the fact that she knew that his nickname was D-Man.
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
So
that's
one
one,
of their-
part that stuck out to me, and I'm like, huh, how did she know that? If
It
he
was
didn't
one of
tell
their
her?
initial conversations
was.
when
Yeah.
he was starting to get
Use the
more
thing.
active
Mhm.
on the keypad.
It was, yeah.
And she asked him, what do you want to be called?
Yeah.
Right.
And he answered D-Man and then explained the story of a prior
Well,
teacher
yeah,
calling
someone
him
No,
called
the,
that.
the brother did. John did, because she confirmed it with John. She's like, who's
Oh.
Damon?
Oh.
First of all, I did
That
not
bothered
like
me
how
too.
she did that.
Damon,
Everybody
yeah, instead
knows
of D-Man.
D-Man.
Yeah.
He meant D-Man. And even when John explained it to her, he was like,
He
oh,
said
yeah,
D-Man.
D-Man. One of his, like you were saying, one of the teachers or whatever was like, oh, D-Man or whatever, and nicknamed him that. And he liked it.
Damon. That
But
was
then
so,
she was like,
that
Damon.
was so
I'm like,
annoying.
why are you, like, what are you doing with
Why are
this
you making
nickname?
a name
Stop
out of
that.
this?
Like,
Yeah.
are you, like, formalizing it? Are you
Mhm.
making it more digestible for you? It's D-Man.
Yeah.
The pronunciation
Let's get it
really
right.
threw me off. And
Yeah. I thought it was cute too. D-Man.
It was
D-Man, that is
cute.
cute,
but
D-Man's cute,
Damon-
but not Damon.
Yeah,
Like, we
yeah.
all knew what the nickname actually was. I'm like, stop it, girl.
Stop it.
Yeah, I don't know why
agree.
she thought,
Damon. Yeah.
and I
And
almost
she kept
want to.
saying it.
She did
It-
the whole thing.
yeah,
And then the
whole
mom and the
thing.
dad, or not the mom, the mom and the brother, whenever they said D-Man, they said
Right.
D-Man. And it's just like, you
Mhm.
know good and well that, like, that was
You
What
want to
is
ask
D-Man?
her,
Yeah.
why are
Why are you saying this?
Damon? And
Right.
I don't want
Probably
to.
just
I
let her
don't-
go with it.
I don't want to
Okay.
fully admit
I don't
why
really
I
wanna
think
talk
she was
to
saying
her.
I
Damon.
want to admit why, but maybe we don't want to go there.
I don't think we want to go there.
Okay. Cultural appropriation. Get into
That's-
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
It is a yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Like,
You
it's
ha- you
someone's
have to
nickname.
ask
Just to honor it. And, like, the fact that the brother literally told you what it was, and then you're just kind of like, Damon.
Yeah.
Jimon. Like, that's how I felt like she
Jimon.
wanted to
Yeah.
be. I don't
Yeah.
know.
She's
Just
making it fancy.
romanticizing
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Like, oh, yes, I have a lover. His name is Jimon. Instead of saying, like, yeah, like, you seen someone new. His name's D-Man.
yeah. It doesn't
D-Man.
sound as cute. Like,
I guess
I
not.
guess.
Yeah.
I'll date a D-Man. Let's go. I think so the nickname was weird
yes.
in the sense of,
Yeah.
and it might be so insignificant, but and to be honest with
It
you,
bugged me the whole time.
when
It did,
yeah.
when people mess up my name, which is not that often, but when it does happen, it doesn't
What do they call you?
doesn't throw me off.
How can you mess up Cherish?
Some people go cherish, like chair,
Cherish.
like to emphasize like the chair part in a
Okay.
sense. I don't know.
I think when I first met you, I kept saying,
or charish.
Charish.
I think it
Sometimes
was
I've heard that.
cherish or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
I
because
got
I
that the
do
first
it.
few times.
Yeah.
And I was like,
And
dang
in my
it.
head, I'm like, it's literally the verb. Just say
Right,
whatever
right,
the
right.
verb is. Like, you know?
I cherish you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah, I don't know
It's
why.
pretty common.
It
That was in the
doesn't
very beginning.
happen too often. I'm gonna be real with you. So that's why I was gonna say, like, I'm not too like picky when it comes to where I feel like someone's messed up the pronunciation of my name a little bit. But I don't know, for whatever reason in his like on his part, I just was like, I don't know, like he can't speak for himself.
Well,
so just don't mess up his thing.
Well, that's the thing, because she asked him, what do you want to be called? And he said D-Man.
And
if
how
he
did,
said that.
how, yeah, and how
then he said,
did she know
she
that?
says Damon anyway.
Yeah, I guess that's also the point too, is like,
how did she find out about it?
That's just my question.
The thought is like, some people are saying like the facilitated communicator device doesn't work at all. But I think that he was able to use it. I do.
Like to a
degree. I don't think it was to the extent that she was saying that he was using it.
He could have
but
said
I
that.
think that he was able to at least say and type that out to a degree. But like the full on like sentences and the stuff that she was saying that he put on there, I don't think so.
Oh yeah, full on
so, like,
papers, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind that everything typed on the keypad, which I wrote in here, the Neo, it was saved in its memory.
Yeah, so it's all real messages that they were sharing on the documentary. Like it wasn't like.
And then I have to say,
recorded.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But I will have to say one other thing that was like puzzling to me, and it's skipping forward a little bit. But when he's taking classes, right, or I don't know if he's actually getting graded, but he's what is it called?
He's a participant.
Right. But there's someone else that's also helping him.
Right.
And she didn't know the book. Like she didn't read the book for that class. And she was able to help him write out the essay. How was she able to help him? Like if like in the guided, what is it called?
Facilitated communication. You
Thank
can say
you.
FC too.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to say FC.
It's a lot.
In the FC, like if basically the person holding the hand, facilitating it, if they are manipulating where the finger goes, right, to type out what they want to, how was the other person able to do so if they didn't read the book? You know what I mean? It's possible.
It's possible, and I'll say the answer to that.
Yes.
I think the answer to that, I don't know if it's real or not, but I think that, what is the name for it? To confer or to...
Confirmation bias?
No, not confirmation bias. It's essentially like there's enough context for you to like pretty much understand
type out words.
What it is or whatever. Because I will give her one thing. I'm not taking away her intellectual intelligence of her being someone that is highly educated. I'm not taking that away from her at all.
Right.
And I feel like if you're someone that is at a professor status that has gotten all of these like accomplishments and stuff like that, and he's coming in and taking like this, not lower level, but this class that is like just talking about general, I think it was like African American.
Yes, it was an African American course.
Yeah, and so she is also a one of the experts, or not expert, but like very well versed in the African American culture, and like I think that was one of the things that she ended up studying, as well as disabilities. And so like I would imagine that if she's sitting in the class, even if she hasn't read the book, I think that she is intellectual and intelligent enough to sit there and be like,
it wasn't Anna. Like she read the book. It was, they had another person help him, like in the library.
She was helping with
not
homework.
Talking about the class scene.
She was helping with homework.
Well, it was for the class, but she was in the library helping him with his essay. And so it does kind of come into question, like how does she know what to type if she hasn't read the book, she hasn't taken the class, so those are just like some devil's advocate. I totally think she went way too far,
right?
And
but it does
took
put in
way too many liberties.
It's just like, how did he type that out?
But it is interesting
later on that like he had no intellectual ability to be able to do any of the stuff that she claimed that he was doing.
Right.
And I think maybe he was capable of some of it, but definitely not all of it.
No. I don't think I personally don't think that you can wipe him away from all of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know much about the person that helped him in the library, because I do feel like they glossed over that really fast. Yeah. And so part of me wonders also too, her education background and I know she could sit there and be like, oh, I had not read the book and I was just there at the library helping him and stuff like that. But I also feel like, do we even know how we influence each other's without even like doing it like subconsciously?
Right.
Because like just holding the hand and knowing that, like, say for instance, someone's making a typo. How much do you really want to help that person make a typo? And you see what they're trying to write and you're already inferring or knowing that, like, okay, this is what he's trying to write. Let me help him out.
But also in that, you know, like, how did he even start if he didn't know it? You know what I mean?
Right. If he's just like completely blank.
Completely has no idea what's going on. So, I mean, it's just something that I found interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
A couple of things, because she points that out.
She does.
At the end.
Yeah.
Do I think she was completely misguided and made, you know, did some things that were terrible? Yes,
absolutely.
I do. Yeah.
I like to think in this way of like, even if he was pretty intellectual and was maybe writing 90% to 100% of the stuff that he wrote and stuff like that, I don't really think that it was her place.
How much percent do you think he was writing?
It's hard to say. I think looking at different perspectives, maybe it could be somewhere in the middle, but I think if I had to put money on it, I would put it lower.
Me too.
I think like if she's saying he 100% is this like intellectual person that's just trapped in a body that can't, you know, do what it needs to do, and then his mom and his brother on the other hand is just like, no, he really can't do much of anything. Then it's like it puts me at 50%, but then I want to lower it down to probably
because
like 30%.
No one else saw it. Like when they were alone with him, it wasn't it wasn't happening.
That's
they even did tests.
They tried to even John and his mother tried to do the facilitated communication, and it wasn't happening.
Right.
Because they weren't unconsciously trying to put messages out there. So, and we can get into it later because basically the whole program was debunked, and I found the test really interesting.
Yeah, like the testing to make sure that whether this person really knows what they're putting down.
Right.
And then they're showing the picture, and then they flipped the folder, and the picture fell down, and it was a new picture. And I saw that, I was like,
oh, yeah, it was crazy.
And okay, a little off topic here, but okay, don't be scared of me from the ghost hotel thing. I don't play with Ouija boards, okay? But it makes me... Okay, I'm bringing this up because how a Ouija board works...
Preparing my heart.
Right.
Oh my God. How it works, though, is that both participants put a hand on the arrow, right? And try to direct the arrow that apparently the spirit is talking through you pushing it. How accurate is that? It's the same thing. Exactly. It's a facilitated communication with the spirit, but is it really a spirit talking?
Is it just
or is it just you and the other person pushing it subconsciously to the letter that you both are thinking in your head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I brought it up. It made me think
it's just something to think about.
It kind of questions the whole validity.
But the fact that he didn't show that to anyone else really makes me think that the percentage is low.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I think that like it's just hard for me to believe that he was so intellectual and everything, and his mom and brother just were so out of the loop with that.
Right.
Like
he cared about him.
He was going on a while now. So this wasn't just like, oh, in the course of 3 months. No. Like we're saying like from 2009 to I think 2011 at least, that he had FC implemented, and that, you know, Anna was becoming a regular person in their life, coming to the house and everything. So like for me, I'm just kind of like, how did you not know that she was supposedly making up all this stuff too? Yeah. That's my thought process. Like my thing is, it's just like, did you not see him and her sitting down at the table at any given time and her typing those things out? Yeah. Like I know when it came down to like the guy coming back with the program to test to whether or not the FC was working and stuff, and how he would say that sometimes that person wasn't even looking at the board. Yeah. Like they were just completely shifted off into another space or whatever. Yeah. So part of me is just kind of like, did you see Derek actually looking and focusing on the keyboard? Did you see him maybe at all using his muscles to move to certain letters? I wish they would have expounded on that part just a little bit instead of just being like, at the end of it, he just didn't have any of this capability. It's like you didn't really catch any of that through like these 2 to 3 years of like her
constant communication.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's why I'm just kind of like, I don't think she completely made it up. Because if she completely made it up, I feel like if I was the mom or brother, I'd be like, wait a second. Wait a second.
Wait a minute.
Wait, are you sure he said that? You know what I mean? Like, have him do it again, or like, you know.
But I mean,
ask him
she's
a
supposed
question
to
and see what he
be.
does.
She's supposed to be the professional here, you know.
Yeah.
So I do think they
Right.
put a lot of trust
They
in her
did.
education and in her experience. But you know, it crossed the line whenever it became romantic /
Right.
sexual,
And
that's when it really changed for the family. They're like, hold up, what?
Yes.
Mhm.
Can we
You
get
know?
into
how
can we get
the
into it?
relationship developed.
Yeah.
How their relationship developed, and on a side note, a little bit of Anna's situation.
Right.
Yes.
She's married.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just throw it out there. Yeah.
She is. She's married with kids. And it's like, what are you doing?
It's so
Yeah.
funny because
It's
the
messy.
way I
Yeah.
don't even know if she had any control over this documentary. But
Probably
honestly,
not.
part of me was just kind of like, girl, like, who are you? You tried to lie to me. I'm watching the documentary. At first, we don't know you're married at all during this.
No,
She
doesn't
doesn't
present
say
herself.
any of that.
Well, she's not now.
She does.
But yeah.
She does at some point. She
I-
talks about
well,
being
at some point, yeah, Lizzie, because it's just like, yeah, it's gonna come
because
out.
it's gonna come out, yeah,
right?
that's
But
true.
like, I think when she started the documentary, she started talking and everything like that. Like, it just, I didn't see that coming.
But she was not married anymore, so she's not going to present herself as married when she's first introducing herself.
Yeah, but we're not
Yeah.
talking
I'm a
about the
divorcee.
current events. We're
Current
talking
day,
about
yeah.
past events, and so
Yeah.
you need to talk about in the past. And
You're
so
just saying
I was
she didn't bring it up soon enough.
no, she didn't
Yeah.
bring it up sooner. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait. You married? And
With
she slipped it
kids?
in
Yeah.
that she was like, oh, well, you know, and I have this situation and everything. I'm like,
Yeah,
what's the
the situation,
Right.
yeah.
Me and my sister are like, what's the situation?
You
And
have
they're
a
like,
whole
oh,
ass
she
family.
married.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then she didn't even say, oh, a situation where I'm married and I have kids. No, she didn't even say that.
Right.
And then later on, a picture pops up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so you got kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not on top of that, you got kids.
Which
That's
is
wild.
sad because it's like she's putting all of this
On the
time into
line.
Derek.
Yeah. Why aren't you
where's-
home with your kids?
Yeah, where's the quality time
I
with your
agree.
children?
Mhm.
Yes.
Reactions.
I'm so sorry.
I got so worked
I
up.
was watching it and I was like, so you mean to tell me
Hold up.
who's with your child?
Yeah.
Who's with
Right.
your children? Yeah, I get
guess-
it. You have a husband, but I'm like, girl.
Guess
On
the
top-
dad, but geez.
But on top of being a professor and
Right.
teaching classes,
is a
and
lot of
having
her
all this
time.
stuff on the side,
Mhm.
you know, helping Derek.
Right.
Which also makes me think she's a little selfish. You know?
a little.
Yeah, well, okay, she's selfish, and it also makes me wonder, like, how much of this is she making up for her own sake?
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
She wants to delve into what she wants to delve into.
Right. She obviously
And
was looking for something.
something's missing in
Obviously.
her in
Missing
her
here.
personal
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
so she is, in her perspective, she's like,
I still have burnt popcorn in my teeth.
really?
My bad.
She her perspective is she's over here like, oh my gosh, this is like a beautiful mind. He's, you know, like, and
Yeah.
I joke about this. Obviously, he is a wonderful man
He
and
seems
all
super
that.
sweet.
Of
super
course, we're not
sweet and
making fun
everything.
of Derek. We're
I'm
making
looking
fun
at
of
her
Anna.
perspective
Anna.
of the situation. Honestly, she's put on rose-colored glasses. I believe rose-colored glasses, and
Absolutely. With the
she's
whole
just like, oh, he's
situation.
like trapped inside this body where it's like he wants to do all these things. He has all of these like, you know, dreams and stuff like that. And it's not the fact that like he didn't, but it's almost just kind of like, you stay in your lane, Anna. You stay in your lane,
Yeah.
Anna, whatever.
Anna.
And she didn't want to do
I like
it.
how you made her name like D-Man.
It's
Damon
Anna
and
and
Anna.
Damon.
Damon.
Damona.
Right?
Damon!
Damon.
No!
Oh, don't ship
sorry.
it. Don't do a
Sorry.
shit, babe. That's wrong.
No.
But no, like, I think, like, she just took it and, like, was like, I think it was when they went to I don't know what it was. Was it the class or whatever?
was the
and he was, like, saying,
Oh,
like,
it was some sort of like convention.
So it was after the
slash-
class, but she started realizing like how intellectual he was
Mhm.
during the course of the African American class that he was taking, and she was seeing all these
Right.
papers. So she started developing feelings, but at the time they were just best friends.
Oh,
Right.
And but
Yeah.
it was a panel that I believe Anna's mother invited Derek to be a part of, the facilitated communications panel where he did this
Yeah.
presentation.
oh, right. Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
That Anna, I keep wanting to say Anna now.
I'm sorry.
Anna was working on with Derek. So once he
Right.
made that presentation, she was just like, wow, he is
he's so
mind-blowing,
brilliant.
brilliant
I think
genius.
she
I
was
helped
like-
him write it.
I think she was a little bit narcissistic in the sense of like, I'm a genius.
You're
a
I think
genius.
so.
She took
We're
on his
geniuses.
accomplishments.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
oh my goodness. And then she used that almost kind of like as her like softening, soothing oil of like, well,
Ew, I
Ew,
don't know how you
yeah.
said that.
I'm sorry.
Just ruining everything.
I'm sorry. But I think she just was like, wanted to be really paint herself as like, I see people for who they are. I don't
Right,
look at the
I'm
outside. I just
different.
look at the
Yeah.
inside and their heart and like,
And his
I just,
mom doesn't see what I
yeah,
see.
she
You know,
kept just being,
Right.
oh, I just am a girl that likes a nerdy man and like this and that and the other. And it's just kind of like, oh man, like you
And
just.
I don't want to
oh.
say that she's completely lacking empathy or
No, I
completely
think-
lacking
No.
the ability to have a relationship with or friendship or connection with people who
I
are
think-
disabled because
Oh, no.
remember the I don't know how to pronounce her name, Deva, the archaeologist.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes,
her
and
name
I
she
liked
was-
her a lot.
Yeah, she's really cool, but she
Deva,
had a
'cause
great
it's- I think. 'cause
yes,
it's-
but she had a great relationship with Anna.
Uh-huh.
yeah,
and
she
said-
was
said
speaking
she-
on her behalf.
and she said she
yes.
was a great person. I think
well, John
she's
said she was a
definitely
good person in the
capable
beginning.
of empathy. You know, she definitely demonstrates that with other people. I think she just deluded herself in the fact that she thought that he really had those thoughts. You
Mhm.
know, like again, I think she believed every word she said.
Yeah.
I think so.
But is she
too,
right?
But I
you
think
know?
she
Mhm.
let her
Did it really
own
happen?
desires of
Exactly.
what she was wanting in her own life
Same.
to
Right.
happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like reason why I make fun of it a little bit is because it's not that he couldn't have been intellectual to the degree as she said. It's not that like you can't fall in love with someone with disability. Like that's
Mhm.
not it at all. But what throws me is I guess I'm like a huge person on like you just don't do that when you're married.
No,
And
no.
you don't
Yeah, she
frolic
had-
you don't
had
frolic
no
the way that you were
business doing
frolicking
it.
and like all that type of stuff. Like you just kind of to me I just feel like you just who are you to speak on love? Who are
Right.
you to like be an advocate for all this type of stuff when at the end of the day like you couldn't even tie up your own relationship
She had no,
appropriately and respectfully.
like
No.
as soon as she started having feelings for him, she had no business being there any longer.
No, that's
Yeah.
when she
No.
needs to separate herself from the issue. But the problem is that she facilitated and initiated these conversations with Derek
Yeah.
Mhm.
to
Well,
start
she did
a
all of it.
relationship
So
with
it really
him.
boils down to, do you believe that he was saying that to her, or do you think she was saying that to herself?
I think
That's
she was
so-
saying it to herself.
And
It's
that's
so
where the
twisted.
I think so.
consent
It's so
issue.
Most of it.
twisted.
That's
Yeah.
where the consent issue is.
Right.
Did he start, initiating sexual
Right.
contact, or was she talking to
Yeah.
herself and did she rape him?
Well,
okay,
Let's
s-
call it like it is.
So-
yeah.
One of my things to add on to that is
Uh-huh.
for me, I think the reason why it leans more of selfish and she put more into it than I think he did is
Uh-huh.
because also her actions about pushing him to be in independent living
Mhm.
was
She was
almost
pushing-
laughable to me.
Mhm.
And I think the mom
Yeah.
and the brother were kind of like, we're not
This
taking
is
this
not
seriously. Like,
possible. Yeah.
like I don't know if they were just looking at her like, what are you talking about? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I wish I was there, a fly on the wall, because
Yeah.
like seeing it in the documentary, I was like, clearly this man needs assisted help. Granted, he was like,
Yeah.
oh, he'll go to an independent living where there's 24/7 care or whatever and
Well,
stuff like
and-
that.
but they even
it's not the
tried to
same.
do
It's
that.
not the same.
They raised him. I
Right.
mean, his mom raised him. She's been with him every step of the way.
Right.
They know he can't live on his own.
well,
even with
you don't
care.
think that they would have
They would have done that
considered
already?
if it was
Exactly.
an option?
Right.
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 But
Yeah.
all of a sudden she comes in and has
Right.
all the answers for
And
him.
she kept pushing it
I-
too.
if
Like,
I
I just
would've-
thought that was so weird.
If I'd have been the mom, I'd have been pissed too.
Yeah.
Like, excuse me.
right.
The mother's anger is valid. I want to say her name was Daisy. Was it Daisy?
Was it?
Oh, the mom was Daisy.
Yeah,
Yeah, Daisy
Daisy.
Johnson.
That's a pretty
yeah,
name.
that's cute.
It's
Yeah.
a really cute name.
Mm-hmm.
No,
My-
it's very valid.
Yeah, it's very valid, but I also think it's disrespectful again for Anna to be pushing for
Yeah.
independent living because it's easy for her to just be like, oh yeah, he can do that, but when all she does is have conversations with him on keypad, she's not helping. She's not helping the assisted living.
So
true.
She's not changing diapers, you know.
Yeah, she's not seeing all of that. Exactly. She's just coming and having a nice chat, and then like, okay, bye. Yeah, see you later.
Right.
So true. You can live on your own. He's got this.
My sister,
we're gonna live.
You're
by
not
ourselves.
seeing behind the scenes.
When I was
Even though I'm
watching
married with
this
kids.
with Iris, my sister, it was just kind of like she was like, it's so funny because she's seeing all like the potential good of like the situation, but she's not getting the full like experience of being a caretaker because like you're seeing the brother and the mom changing his diaper or like taking him to the bathroom, like all that type of stuff, and it's just kind of like,
and don't you think if he could do it, he would?
Right.
You know,
that's the
like
thing.
No one really wants to be in that situation.
Even 2-year-olds, when they poop themselves, they don't like the feeling. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's why they eventually are like, oh.
And when they learn they can do it themselves, they want to do it themselves eventually. Exactly. They're not like, oh yeah, mom, come with me.
I don't want to sit here in my own filth. Yeah. You know, that's just a human instinct. Oh, if I can, you know, put it somewhere else, I'm going to.
Even if he had the cognitive abilities that Anna believed that he had, he still needs assisted care.
Right.
End of story.
Yeah, I mean, physically, even though he can't move the same way.
You can see that he's struggling to still walk at full capacity and let alone use his like arms and hands and like he wants to and stuff like that. So like for me, I just kind of feel like her insisting on the independent living, like it wasn't even like how do you guys feel about creating like a roadmap for him to be able to get assisted living sometime in the future, maybe like 5 years from now.
She was very pushy about it.
She was very pushy in the sense of like, well, as soon as you can do this, then this and that and the other. And it's just like, I was just kind of thinking like, what are you rushing for?
Right. And
what
for
is the
why?
rush?
Because that's what you want.
Right.
You know?
So Iris was saying.
Yes.
Iris said that perhaps she had an angle of whatever situation that she was in, she wanted to get out of. She wanted to be in the space when he got independent living. And that on top of that, if she ended up being a caregiver for him or whatever, then she would be able to get money
That's
or whatever
what I thought too.
Instead of the mom and the brother. Obviously, I'm not an expert in that whole area, and I don't know exactly if that would have been the case.
Caretaker,
but if he's living independently, then I don't think that you can file taxes for that person because they're not your dependent anymore. And if they are aided by the government due to any type of disability, granted, once again, I don't know. You get a disability check. And he can choose to do whatever he wants with that because at that point, you're claiming that he has enough intellectual intelligence to be able to take care of all of that.
Yeah.
But also, too, if he is going to be in a romantic relationship with her and marry her, let's say, then all of a sudden she is a caretaker. And guess who gets to reap the rewards of that check or whatever, even that living situation.
Yeah. And maybe that was partly it. But I honestly think she had this delulu
that it was going to work out.
Thought that she was happily in love, you know, and because you wouldn't get physical if it was just for finances. You know, it was obviously something more. And I think she doesn't have all her marbles. The darker angle is what if she liked the idea of the control? Yep.
What if she liked the idea that I would like a romantic partner where I can call the shots, I can do all those things, but at the end of the day, I don't have to hear you talk. I don't have to really like abide by anything you say or do. What are you going to do? Stop me? No, you're not. You're going to go ahead and I'm going to do what I want to do. And I don't think it was like, I want to hurt you, but I think like knowing that, well, here's someone that I can be with and I can feel free or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if the dark side of it, of like, if she really knew that she was doing it, you know, and then she controlled him and then, you know, raped him. Yeah. Like it wasn't consensual. She knew that. But, you know, I don't know. Was she delusional enough to think that this was really happening? You know, I don't know.
Can we talk about,
the courts definitely made a decision for her.
Right.
Can we talk about their first kiss in that whole situation?
Yes. We can.
That was awkward.
Yeah.
It was awkward. So okay.
I don't have much to
it was
say
hard
on
to
it.
hear.
It was cringe.
It was cringe.
This was This was my rationality in the whole situation. She is all about consent, right? she's saying like consent. I got
What she
consent. He
said.
told me that, you know, he wanted me to kiss her again and all that type of stuff. And so like, you know, they progressed on to, I think, making out eventually or something. At that point in time, they didn't do anything more.
Yes.
But like
Well,
whatever
They're
stuff.
taking it slow.
Didn't
the very
he
first
grab
time
her
they kissed-
breasts
Yes.
when they kissed?
Might have, but
I
it didn't
think
go any
so.
further than that. It
Maybe,
was just like the
yeah.
first encounter or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so
Or maybe
She-
he asked for her to take her top off. Or
Yes.
something.
no, that was the second
Yes.
time.
Was
Or
the
that was the
second
second
time?
time they talked about
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm talking about the first time when they first kissed.
Yeah.
You know how she introduced of whether or not the evaluations of whether or not he was capable, had the skill set, was comfortable with, you know, his intellect, I guess, before she introduced the FC
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like when she went into a physical relationship with him, which would be the kissing part, I feel like that went all out the window.
What went all out the window?
The methodical way about going about it with somebody that is experiencing something for the first time, it just doesn't add up to me.
Yeah.
Imagine your first kiss with someone, or you both don't know what you're doing,
it was
or
bad.
you know what you're doing. Even if you were someone with a virgin or first kiss or whatever, you're going to be so cautious in making sure that that person is okay, understanding. Like you're not running to like be like, okay, let's make out, let's keep kissing, let's do all this stuff or whatever and stuff like that. And I think she like used like, oh well, I got consent from him to keep going and everything like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, you talked about you wanted to be so sure of understanding like his intellect when you were introducing the FC, but then that thought process of making sure people are comfortable and okay and all that type of stuff, that went out of the way before intimacy.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like just wasn't buying that part.
Well,
Yeah.
She used him as an excuse, saying, "Oh, Derek's asked me to kiss him,
Right.
and asked me to kiss him multiple times."
But just because he
So
even
if he
asked to do it,
he technically initiated it.
that's
Right,
true. But
and that
even
was
if he
consent.
asked to do it, and even though he's giving consent, when you think from yourself being the professional,
Let's
with
take a
yourself,
step back.
Yeah, let's okay,
take a breather.
even you asked me to kiss. You kiss first. Let's take a breather and digest that. Let's figure out if
How
that's
was
what we
that
want to
for
do.
you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? All that type of stuff. And I feel like, why wasn't that in place for her, knowing that like that was supposedly your pattern in the beginning?
But
Right.
think about like if he really wasn't saying anything to her,
Yeah, I know.
she was just kissing him. You
Oh,
know?
God. Yeah.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah, so that's kind of where it goes back to. It's to me, I kind of feel like with what you set it up to be, it's either you should have went about it in a methodical way to make sure that you weren't doing anything out of consent, or you were low-key delusional and you just went for it because it was something that you really wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
How many times do teenagers think that they want to have sex early or to do something early, and they'll say, yeah, kiss me, yeah, let's do this or whatever?
Right.
Do you think that they're able to handle that situation though? Maybe.
Right.
Do you think that they're ready for it?
Well,
Or do you want to be someone that's like, okay, like let's take it. Now, obviously, like teenagers and stuff like that, like both of you are teenagers, hopefully at the time. But imagine
I hope so.
what if we're comparing it to like a 13-year-old compared to a 23-year-old?
Well, but she thought he had the mental capacity of a 30-year-old.
Yeah, but that was a first time experience though. Let's not forget.
Sure.
We're talking about a 40-year-old virgin maybe who's never had sex before.
You're just saying she should have
Oh,
checked more.
yeah.
He's the CEO of a company and it's but since he's the CEO of a company, he's so intellectual, like he should be an expert when it comes to sex. But he's a 40-year-old virgin.
Well,
At the
just-
end of the day, he's never experienced that.
Well, just like he's going to be capable of independent living.
Right, yeah. So I
Yeah,
just kind of
it's
feel like
just
she really like
unrealistic
though. It's
expectations.
unrealistic
Mhm.
expectations, and honestly, like what she got, I agree with. Like the fact that
Yeah.
she was convicted of rape. That's when
Mhm.
it went too far.
it did go too far and it didn't add up for the
It
second.
probably went too far before that.
Right, of course.
Actually,
I kind of
Like, anything physical was too far.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did it happen the second time?
The
Is that
second
when,
time
or was
they
it the
were
third
kissing.
time that he? No, the
can't
second time they
remember.
were kissing, but he also asked, "Can I touch your breasts?" And
Yeah.
that's when
Right.
she stripped and
and they did the deed.
yes,
Yes.
I don't know where
The third time was at, I think, the office.
Yeah, because the second time was
because they had the mat.
Yeah, and the mat.
But the second time was at his mom's house while the mother was at church.
Yes.
While Daisy was at church.
Yes. How disrespectful is that?
I know.
That's so disrespectful. I don't care if you don't believe in whatever the person believes in, but like, but goodness sake,
she didn't
you
care.
knew that was messed up and
wrong.
that
was when tension was really starting to develop. Was when the relationship between the two
mom.
of them were developing, and so Anna started pushing the family away from him.
Yeah.
And being very disrespectful.
He's like, you need to be independent, and he can't be.
John explains picking up on racial undertones with her communications with them.
I feel like they were I think that there was assumptions that like because they didn't have a ton of money and this and that and the other that like I don't know, it just kind of gave the feeling of like y'all are not taking care of him and you're not going about it the right way that he needs. And it's just kind of like, how dare you? You don't know.
You don't know him.
No. Yeah, and it's like
you
also
haven't been with him his whole
life. The
life.
brother has at this point I think already got his PhD or something like that. And it's just like, okay, they're not doing like just they're not like, I don't know, the way that
they're not mistreating him.
No,
not
at all.
They're doing a good job.
A very supportive environment.
And they're highly an intellectual family. Like, yes, I get it that like, maybe the brother's nonverbal and all this type of stuff, but for the most part, like they're not dumb.
No,
like,
and
far from it.
It doesn't mean that they're poor either.
And
that's what John was so upset.
Do the right thing for him.
Yeah. And that's why they found Anna in the first place.
And Anna's at this point undermining the family.
Absolutely.
And it's like, once again, what is your role?
And at this
they're allowing you to be here.
Well,
you're not even like you're not ordered by a court or by any doctor or anybody to be here at this point. They're allowing you to be in the home and to be there with Derek because they think that you're doing something good for him.
Exactly. And at this point, she decides, she says that he said we should tell them we're dating.
Yeah. They decide to
have a conversation with the family.
Yeah.
Did not go well.
No, it did not go well.
It was bad.
I think like that John said that he went down to the basement and started like dry heaving and throwing up.
He was so angry.
And sick.
Yeah.
Sick to his stomach.
Yeah.
I think he was like dry heaving or something.
I don't blame them.
Because how they approached it wasn't just, we're in love. It was, we made love. She had to put it down like that.
Yeah.
We made love. As a statement. It was such a power.
The mom asked her,
move,
I think the mom asked her if it like, whatchamacallit, and she said that was her whatchamacallit. So it wasn't like out in the blue, like we made love. It was, so what have you guys done?
Oh.
To what extent? And she was like, we've made love. And it's just
I still feel like
it
was asserting her dominance over Derek a little bit.
Weird.
Oh yeah.
And that's how I interpreted it anyway.
It was. I think so.
But John was so upset. Yeah, he went downstairs and threw up and left. Daisy was smart. Daisy played nice.
She really was.
She was.
She was. She was
diplomatic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
Freaking out internally,
I
but
know.
externally being
because
very
then
calm.
She eventually calls her and gets her on the mic, like she
That's
records
when the police
it.
are investigating.
And she's like, yeah, I totally did this, like it wasn't hard to catch her at all.
No, not at all. But they kind of ghosted her for a while too.
They did.
So first they were like, let's have more conversations, and then didn't invite her back over.
Right.
Wouldn't answer her calls, and Anna's
they were
voice,
taking it all in.
She kind of was giving stalker mentality just a little bit.
She was calling them back
She
multiple
sounded
times.
desperate.
The voicemails were weird.
They were.
Because she went into detail, I think, about the yoga mat and stuff.
Yeah,
let's talk more about how they made love.
Let's
because
talk about that to
it's
his
bad,
mother. Ew.
Right. Honestly, like that's where, and that was another piece where I was just like, okay, something is wrong with her.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, like, to be honest with you, like, I
think there was.
I think that, like,
I think she was delusional.
In our case, and I say in our case as in, like, people who do not have a disability to that extent, I think that having a passionate session in the office,
it's not possible.
Perhaps, what I'm saying is perhaps one of us would engage in that. Perhaps.
Engage in what?
To have sex in an office in
that
way.
I mean, it's kind of a fantasy for some people.
Because maybe it's the fantasy. I'm just saying, like, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're adding another layer of someone that has a disability.
Right. Yeah.
Why would you ever think that is an okay situation
to do it
to
in
do
an
that?
office? Yeah. it just raises many red flags.
It does. Like,
really does.
I know you have a problem moving around and like you're barely able to like perform making love, but let me set down a yoga mat and a beach towel for you.
Well, and then his brother John finds red marks on the back.
Abrasions on his back.
Yeah, on
He's
his
like,
back.
what were you doing to that
diaper,
extent?
by the way.
No, wasn't that from the sex?
No, it was from the sex, but he found the abrasions while changing his diaper.
The diaper.
And he was like, where are these from?
Pretty much he probably
was
like changing him and
yeah. And then one of the other disturbing things is that his mom is like, great, now he masturbates everywhere. You know?
And can't
because
stop.
he doesn't understand. That just further
I think he's on medication, she said, for it.
Yeah.
Probably.
He had to be.
I think she said something like he's on medication and he's...
So he doesn't basically jerk off everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, to be honest with you, it
that just shows you that he can't control it.
Right. That's what I was saying. Like, because honestly, like, there's one point of like, okay, masturbation, whatever, do your thing. But there's another thing of like, you continue doing it and you can't stop. That's just showing
and
that
she
like
alluded,
he's, you know?
alluded. Well, obviously, if you got to be on medication, that means he's not doing it, because who cares if you're masturbating like in private?
Right.
You know, it's a private thing to do. But if you're doing it everywhere in front of your mom, that means you don't understand.
And then also, if you're doing it so much to the extent that you start to harm yourself,
right,
because that's also possible too.
And she
that's
taught him something that he didn't know before.
That's what I'm. So and it goes back to like, how are you sitting up here confidently saying that like, oh, he consented to this and all that type of stuff, like whether he typed it out or not or whatever.
Yeah,
you should have been able to do it. You should have done it step by step. Absolutely making sure, if this was the case, that this is something that was okay because of the circumstances and because this is something
somebody else see him,
new.
you know, and do tests on him. That's not you. Yeah,
like,
but
she
didn't
didn't
want
know that was something that was highly like vulnerable and sensitive. Even for someone that doesn't have those disabilities, like you can't just like bum rush somebody with like making love. Like,
right. And the fact that she didn't even talk to the family about the relationship before making
I think
love.
she knew there was something wrong there. Well, and she was married too.
That too.
She
was
wasn't,
keeping a lot of things hush-hush.
I don't even know what she was going to do about her relationship with her husband and all that type of stuff.
Well,
because she said that she was going to do it and everything. But he didn't find out until
they took her to court.
No, because she just kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to tell him.
I'm going to tell him."
And she kept telling Daisy that I'm going to tell him when the time is right.
It just makes you wonder what's wrong with her, to be honest with you.
There was something off with that, because it's just like, man, you didn't even have any decency to like sit your husband down and be like, listen, like, you know, this and that and the other. Like, he had to find out.
Maybe she's running from a bad relationship, but you don't do this.
No, you don't. That's what me and Iris were talking about when we were watching it. We were like, we wonder what the relationship would have been. What was it like in her marriage? Like, was there huge issues going on and she was trying to escape? Like, what was it going on and stuff like that? But I do remember what the husband had written to the lover.
Oh, the letter to the trial.
Yeah,
to the judge.
He put in.
I don't remember.
He weighed in his
letter for character representation.
Mm-hmm. He called her a narcissist, and that he
could
said,
see it.
He said that she was a narcissist, and essentially that don't believe a word that she says because she's a pathological liar.
I mean, and he lived with her.
Yeah,
you know.
And I was just like, well, shoot, like you're the one that cheated on your husband. You're the one that pretty much was abandoning your kids, kind of. Mm-hmm. And then on top of it, it's like you're over here saying that like Derek is writing all these messages and stuff like that, and then it comes out later that like it kind of looks like you essayed him, and then now on top of it, your husband is putting his 2 cents in and saying that you're a pathological liar and you're a narcissist. It is not looking good.
Yeah. And so she is convicted of sexual assault, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
convicted of first-degree aggravated sexual assault for 12 years.
Okay. Yeah. Which I think is, in my opinion, is accurate. I think she should have gotten that. But isn't it reversed?
No. So she was sentenced to 24 years, supervised parole after that for life. However, 2 years later, she appealed her conviction and a 3-judge panel decided in her favor. They ruled Anna's defense was limited by the court's dismissal of testimony related to FC because they couldn't use during her trial.
Yeah.
FC had been debunked at that point. So she couldn't use any of that as evidence. Okay. However, they decided they ruled Anna's defense was limited because
Like, basically, she didn't have a fair trial, so they had to throw it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or she gets to serve a lesser sentence.
Okay. Yeah. And didn't they just do time served at that point?
Double check.
I think so, because I think she like was coming up on the halfway mark.
She had already served 2 years. No, it wasn't even half.
No, it wasn't even half.
She
it was
simply
like, it was like 2
served
years.
2 years out of the 24.
Yep.
Really?
She accepted a plea to a lesser charge and was released. I don't know what the lesser charge is. That's something I would have to fact check.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Sexual aggravation. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
So my question is do we think that
Assault?
Anna was being selfish?
Yes.
Yeah. I
do.
And I think she's delusional. I really think she was the whole time.
I think she believes it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I believe
I do.
the relationship she was having with Derek, she was ultimately having with herself.
Yeah.
That's
agree.
my take.
That's my ultimate takeaway.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I agree. I think that like what I didn't like about it is she really spun in the whole, you should really love somebody for who they are, and just fault me for loving someone not based on like
Which it's not
what they're
about
capable of and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it just like made me icky, because it's just kind of like, oh, if you didn't love Derek, and if you didn't do if you didn't kind of do what I did, then like you're
You
not as
wouldn't
good
see
of
what
a
I
you're
saw.
not you're not as good as a person as I am, and how I can look past these things and stuff like that.
And that's the narcissist
And it's just like,
in
no,
her.
Anna,
Yeah.
like yeah,
You're not getting it, woman.
right.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, Anna, that's not the case. It's just like, it was inappropriate of you, of what you did, and you took it too far. And honestly, like, it just makes me really icky, because true love is being able to refrain from your fleshly desires and everything, and putting the other person before you. And that should have been a high critical situation for you to really think about it and process it and everything. And I don't think she did enough of that to do that. I think
she
really
was acting selfishly.
I think she did too. And it just kind of makes you like, I honestly almost felt when I was watching her as almost like she was trying to make me and other people feel bad for not
understanding,
agreeing and understanding.
She sees herself
her
as a victim in this situation.
She does.
Yeah.
But even her friend from the panel, I can't remember how to say her name, Deva. But at first she was shocked that Anna was arrested and all of that. But once she she flew out and watched the trial.
Yeah.
And she said this was about control. This was about power.
Yeah.
And she got way too emotionally invested. And even she believes in FC and
she should have walked
and knew
away.
that this was inappropriate.
Right. Absolutely.
Should have walked away. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, it sounds like we're all in agreement.
Uh-huh.
This was, like I said, chaotic. Just ethically, there was a lot of emotions going on.
Yeah, and it's never to say that like you can't be in a relationship with somebody that has disabilities, or or maybe even,
of course, but it's
on the same level of Derek. But another thing I want to put out there as well is you can love someone and truly be there for someone, without having a heavy romantic layer to it, or introducing any type of sexual behavior or anything to it. And I just kind of feel like if she really loved him, and then she really felt that way in a sense towards him, she should have been able to be like, okay, like, because I love his mind and I love who he is, and the fact that like this is a touchy situation, this should be enough for me. He should have been enough. If you really loved him,
right,
he should have been enough. And it shouldn't have been to this extent where you needed to like what's it called, consummate, or do any kissing or anything like that. Like, it is possible for you to actually, believe it or not, it's possible for you to love someone entirely with your whole heart and to be there for them without doing any of those things.
Yeah.
But
and
she
so I
acted
just
selfishly.
truly don't believe her in saying that she loved him and all that type of stuff, because
No, it
those
wasn't
things
love.
that you did and everything, that wasn't
She
love.
wasn't
She
thinking of
loved the
him.
dream of it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
She didn't
fantasy.
love him as a person.
I agree.
Because then she wouldn't have treated him in that way. She wouldn't have been constantly
She thought
pushing
she
for
was
him
being
to
a
change.
hero. Right.
Yeah. She thought she was advocating for him, but really she was just pushing him to be something that he was
wasn't.
not.
Yeah.
And that
Really,
he
she
will
was
never
abusing
be.
him.
So
And he's
essentially,
an
he
amazing
wasn't enough
person.
for what she wanted.
Yeah, which is so sad, because his family loves him for exactly who he is. And she should have been able to do that too.
Right.
But nope.
It's all about, I think it all boils down to, could he consent to it? And I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think he could have given the consent that
for a
truly is
romantic
needed.
relationship.
And that was
Right.
determined in the trial. They did extra
Yeah.
tests, and and it has been determined in the court that his mental capacity is between 6 to 12
An
months.
infant.
Yeah.
That's what breaks my heart.
That's what breaks my heart
And
too,
it's-
because
it makes
it's just
it
like,
gross,
if that was the
honestly.
case, then there was no way that he was really using the FC.
That's what I'm saying. He wasn't capable.
And there are people who
Yeah.
still question that.
He's not
and
even
you could question it
capable-
all you want, but
Yeah.
she still
It's
did
been
wrong.
debunked. They don't use
Right.
it. So at least in the court's mind, it's right, you know?
Mhm. And
Yeah.
I'm with the court.
I am too.
So
I'm with the court too. It's just it is really sad. The more I think about it, the more I'm just kind of like, how dare she?
Yeah.
And it's not even it's I don't know if it's a right or wrong thing, but it's just more so kind of like, how did you get to a place where like you just really took advantage of not only him but like the mom and the brother? Because it's not only like you were making like the viewers feel stupid, but you also, I'm sure, made the mom and the brother feel really dumb and stupid. And it's
well,
like, that
she
just
took
wasn't
advantage
called
of
for.
him. And
the whole family.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
She's
like,
out now.
the brother and the
Yeah.
mother were angry, and they have every right
Well,
to be.
Do we know what she's doing now? Did you do any research on her?
I didn't see where she was
Well,
now, but
I didn't do any research on
What'd
her,
she
but
say?
didn't she
said
say
so.
she's like working at home now?
yeah, she works from. She has
Yeah.
a work from home job now.
She
Because
has to,
Not
like-
doing what she loves.
yeah,
really.
she was playing the "woe is me" card. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't teach anymore, and that's all my life was. And so now I'm trying to figure it out. And she tried to work at a restaurant for a bit, but people knew her.
People
and
knew
so
her, and so she
got
had to stay
fired,
away.
And,
Yeah.
Does she
and-
not give predator vibes a little bit? Like, would you be comfortable with her around your children? Is that just me?
No, I.
I
Did I
think
go
it's
there?
an-
I'm
I think
sorry.
it's a separate issue.
You
like
think
a-
so?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't.
I
be
don't really trust her. Period.
No,
Not with
Yeah.
my children. Not with my family. Not with anyone.
not with myself.
You know, not with my
Like-
cat. My future cat. My
Honestly,
my
like-
my goddaughter over
Yeah.
here. I don't
Oh.
little pterodactyl. Like
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
I
her
don't
husband,
trust her.
Her husband couldn't
period.
even trust her. Like, come on.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that like the extent of that goes, but I don't trust
Yeah,
her.
I'm not. I
no.
guess I'm not putting that on her. I don't know her like that, but
Right.
I mean, it's just when you hear people that are like, praying after children, they kind of give you like
Is she?
similar.
I mean, he's
similar-
supposed to be of infant level.
That's
so
what I'm
it,
saying.
It
though.
gives you
like,
the
it just
ick.
kind of gives you. a
Does that
little
make
bit.
her a sex offender then? So wouldn't she
Yes.
be on a sex offenders
Yeah,
list?
probably.
Yeah.
Probably can't live that close to
Well,
schools.
but she pleaded to a different
A lesser charge.
a lesser charge,
We'd
so
have
I
to
don't know
look
what the
into
charge
it.
is. Yeah.
If
She-
our listeners have more information, definitely let us know in
Yeah,
the
let us
comments.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that she
Do you think
got
he
it too harsh? Do you think that, Derek was diagnosed wrong in the sense of his intellect? Do
Yeah.
you
Do you think he was capable of thinking at that higher
Right.
level, or do you think
Right.
she basically was talking to herself? You know,
Yeah.
it's one or the other.
And you don't have to
Yeah.
agree with us. We are open to
Nah.
any and
Yeah.
all opinions, so we love to have conversations.
I'm
Yeah.
often wrong.
We just
so,
like to,
but
well, and like I said to them before, it's not about being right or wrong. It's
Yeah.
it's just like throwing all your thoughts out there. Like, honestly, in this podcast, we're just kind of really like going over of what we saw, what we heard, and all that type of stuff, and like
Mhm.
trying to really figure out like what happened here. How did it get to this point? I don't really know, to be honest with you, but it's really interesting, and there's definitely something about it that just doesn't sit right with me.
right.
Mhm.
And
It's a heavy one, I think.
yeah, it is. And honestly, like, I'm sure if she was sitting in front of us today, she probably would talk, stand for her side, 10 toes
Oh yeah,
down,
she
about
she
it.
says
but-
that she's innocent.
Yeah.
Right. And it just makes you kind of feel like, okay, like, am I missing something?
Right.
Like,
Mm.
should I, like, you want to be on a fly on a wall and you want to see it yourself.
we're not delulu. That's what we're missing. Sorry.
So true. Honestly, love is love. And, like, you should never feel like you have to work hard to get someone. That's one thing.
What?
You shouldn't have to work that hard to get someone's consent.
Yeah, no.
No.
It shouldn't be
yeah.
that hard.
No.
And if it is
a
that
good
hard,
point.
then maybe you should just let that go.
Yeah.
Well, I
Like,
think that
real
was
talk.
kind of like the court's point of like, what's wrong with you? Like
Yeah.
that
You
you're
really
doing
push
this.
for
You're
this.
really
Yeah, like, you
pushing.
really push
You're really
for this.
pushing.
Typically, when you have a romantic relationship with somebody like that, it should be like, "Do you like me?" Yes, and then there shouldn't be that much.
Oh,
Whatchamacallit?
pterodactyl. You better not
Do
be
you feel
trading
that way
sides.
too? Yeah.
Traitor.
yeah.
And on that note,
Yeah.
Other than that, Thank you guys for watching so much. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you would love to. And we're going to catch you guys
for
in the next one.
Pterodactyl.
Yes.
She loves some likes.
Yes. She'll
for
be
her
back
little
around.
extra toes.
Say bye-bye.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.